Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Living on Blockchain. Today, we are speaking to Nikita. Nikita is someone who has extensive, experience in the DeFi space. He's worked with the One Inch Network. He took up a leading position there as the CBDO. Post that, he has co-founded Barter DeFi. This is a solver network on top of Ethereum. This was a very, very interesting conversation. We talked a lot about how solver networks are the next big thing in terms of interoperability. We also talked about Solana and Ethereum. Very interesting conversation, a different conversation. These guys are really making waves in terms of what they are building. And I'm sure that everybody would find some insights here in this conversation. I can't wait for you guys to hear this. Let's deep dive right in. Hi, Nikita. Thank you so much for making the time to speak to us today. How are you doing?
Hello, Tarusha. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
The pleasure is all mine. And for our listeners, let's deep dive right into your background and how you got into Web3 initially.
Oh, that's a pretty good story, and I think I've never told it. But I was studying at Nottingham University, and we've had Italian professor, and it was 2013, and he introduced us to blockchain and Bitcoin, and we, spent a couple of. And I was studying, finance and economics, so we spent two seminars, looking at the blockchain, and we concluded that, um, Bitcoin will never be adopted by institutionals. It's mostly used for, scam transactions, and that, crypto in general is a very niche, tech. So for over 4 years, since that, time, I lived in a world, in a paradigm where blockchain was a good tech, but crypto and Bitcoin was something that no one should ever touch. And every time I would see on the news the announcement that there was a hack or someone lost money, like big amounts, like MTGOG hacks, Bitfinex hack, DAO. Yeah, I would think that people would stop using crypto. But in 2017, I started buying some coins, and then I got to work into crypto full time. And my last venue was at One Inch. I was, the third employee of One Inch in 2020, joined before DeFi summer and before DeFi became a hot topic. So yes, this is what my journey looks like so far.
Wow. So, you've had quite an arc from going from, like being
Yeah,
in love with the technology, but staying away from the crypto side of things, and now moving and deep diving into DeFi.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So, can you tell us a little bit more, perhaps, about how what kind of prompted you to co-found Barter DeFi, and how has your journey been so far? I would love to understand the USPs there as well.
Absolutely. So, I feel like DeFi is still, the best market niche in crypto, and it just has an instant product market fit. In my personal opinion, I feel like we should have a different economic system in the world, and it should be transparent, built on top of smart contracts, and this is what DeFi kind of unlocks. And I like all the various niches within DeFi. I've been angel investing actively in this particular space into AMMs, RFQ systems, stable coins, infrastructure. Yeah, and in my personal opinion, like DeFi it hasn't happened yet. In 2020, it was just the beginning and the first wave, and it should receive a much bigger spotlight in crypto landscape in general. And yes, so I worked at One Inch. I was looking at various new ideas. I quit One Inch in July 2022 when I was moving to Chile with my family, and I've been actively looking like what are the next hottest topic in DeFi, and intents were one of those. So, I was looking for small teams or like really talented engineers with whom I met during hackathons, so during various, conferences and events. And we felt like Intense unlocks a lot of new opportunities for, just users and builders as well. And at that time, the only platforms that was sort of like hot and available to join was CowSwap. So we decided that maybe we should start a solver, and this is exactly what we did. And our solver became quite successful. We launched less than a year ago, and we already did over 4 billion volumes on Ethereum mainnet. So yeah.
Wow, that is those are wonderful stats. Like that's quite a lot of traction that you
Thank you.
guys have achieved since your inception. So if you had to perhaps explain to a layperson what the platform does, you call yourself solver built on top of
Right.
Ethereum. So how would you perhaps put it into 2-3 lines?
Okay, well, that's a hard question, but let me try to tackle it. So I feel like we are an invisible hand of the market. People interact with other platforms and other UI, whether they are for trading or cross-chain swaps or some kind of other operations, and they don't even know they are using our system. So yeah, we empower third-party dApps like CowSwap to find the most optimal route and for users, and people who want to trade use our off-chain computations for swapping. Yeah.
All right. So basically, you are like a layer that, or an intermediary layer that, users are utilizing without even perhaps realizing that, they're using your solution. They have you guys to thank for it.
Yes, it's a weird dynamic which everyone is kind of trying to solve, and I think solvers will get a lot more attention, a lot more spotlight,
Right.
due to various like innovation ideas. For example, for us, we did this research where we analyzed concept of coincidence of wants and how to use it between protocols. So, imagine like if I want to sell one ETH and maybe you want to buy one ETH, there is no way for our orders to be matched if we use any platform except CowSwap. Like, for example, you're using 1inch, I am using 0x or Uniswap X, and yeah, there is no way to connect our transactions. But if there is a solver present on both platforms, it can potentially match this order and save on gas and save on AMM fees and reach an equilibrium price that, for example, market makers cannot provide. This is what we are researching and what we are trying to do in DeFi.
So you're trying to solve for a different kind of interoperability challenge. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. We are trying to solve liquidity fragmentation. We are trying to improve MEV. It's actually like a lot of things that all of us are trying to solve and build. And yeah, no one has, I would say, succeeded so far in terms of, coherent and massive solution, but we are working hard to tackle all those problems.
Right. So can you give our listeners some historical context on how the concept of intents and solvers have evolved in the DeFi space?
Well, absolutely. So I think the best definition about intents was coined by Paradigm, but transactions refers to how actions should be performed, and intent refers to what the desired outcome is. And that's a huge difference because, transaction says like do A's and B, pay exactly C to get X back, and intent says I want X and I'm willing to pay like C. And solver systems, everyone looks at them as kind of like sophisticated parties, uh, yeah, to find optimal routing or optimal liquidity and to, avoid potential problems that are quite common in DeFi space, like front running and MEV, issues. So yeah, we are, trying to find the best price for user across all publicly and non-publicly available liquidity sources from different smart contracts and different protocols, and yeah, to provide the user the outcomes that they want. So it's a new idea. It kind of started a few years ago, and a lot of people, especially from TradeFi, they're saying that intents is a more sophisticated like DeFi way of saying limit orders, and technically they are correct. So intents can be looked at as fancy limit orders.
Right. Can you give us a bit of an overview on the process of matching intents with solvers? Because, like you mentioned, this is something that is very recent, as a phenomena in the space. And this seems like a very big problem to solve, like pretty much like how big in general, when people say interoperability is a challenge, obviously this is a subset of that, and that is a huge problem, right? So how do you even go
Right.
about starting, of thinking to solve such a problem? Because there are such big ecosystems, right? And how do you get them to talk to each other and make sure that the user is getting what he, wants?
Right. Well, solvers. So I think connecting those platforms and analyzing liquidity in real time requires, some kind of like optimization,
Right.
skills and deep math understanding. And there are actually very few people with experience like that. So, for example, Barter team is very lucky because one of my co-founders, Seva, he used to work in logistics, and for 7 years he was building software for companies like Philip Morris, for example, or IKEA, to help them ship goods between different countries. And it's kind of the same with like routing pools and connecting transactions. The real challenge is to do it in a decentralized fashion. So all the solar systems right now, at least like I would say 90% of them, sort of centralized, running on their own
Right.
servers and not,
Yeah.
doing it in the open. And this is
Yeah.
what we are trying to crack. Yeah.
Wow. This is wonderful. And the more I'm listening to you and your solution, about your solution, this seems so relevant, and the potential to scale is massive, right, in the space.
We sure hope so. There are more and more use cases and more
Right.
platforms that are being available for systems like ours. Like imagine, let's dive. It's actually very interesting, and I haven't seen anyone covered it. But imagine 2 years ago there was just one platform, CowSwap, that allowed
Hmm.
third-party solvers to participate, and
Right.
the only three solvers that existed were built by Gnosis team. So and based on aggregators API like 1inch, 0x, and Paraswap, and
Hmm.
now we have over 20 different full-time teams working to improve solver systems and trying to capture the market, and some existing projects with different narratives, like for example Enzo Finance are kind of pivoting from other things they did in DeFi, and more platform open up the doors for solvers. Like for example Uniswap X, I think, was a big unlock and a big shift in a way that how people looked at intents, because when Uniswap allowed third parties to solve order flows that they have, it kind of unlocked a lot of improvement, especially for users, because with a more competitive solver landscape, users get the best rates because everyone is kind of fighting for it.
Yes. Right. This is an ever, changing landscape, right? Like what you've mentioned, that the scope is absolutely huge, and there are, earlier there were fewer
Yes.
platforms that were trying to solve for it, and now obviously that does change. But when the space is so dynamic, and I think this goes for almost every other builder in Web3, because Web3 as a whole is very dynamic, but especially for the problem you're solving, how do you stay ahead of the curve? Like how do you create a platform which is, as you mentioned, the traction that you've received is commendable. How do you stay ahead of the curve, and how do you make sure that you are able to keep the platform as dynamic as the space without compromising on the security, being perhaps one of the bigger challenges?
Yes, well, I think a lot of it has to do with, personal relationship and
Hmm.
technological research, because we are trying like a lot of new concepts that were not widely like tried by other teams for like swaps and trading and interoperability. Yeah, we have interesting approach to multi-chain and cross-chain, and we do some experiments. So I think this is very important to have some research bandwidth for any project in order to figure out what the end game of the niche you're working on looks like. And another one is personal relationships. So I joined 1inch team, and I was, the third employee after the co-founders for like a couple of months. We just worked, three of us. So I think personal relationship, when you engage with projects and talk with them and ask how you can help and solve their needs, and building those relationships, this is very important for crypto. And with my experience, it's kind of I knew a lot of different parties. So when we were chatting with them, we kind of they provided the pain points, and we discussed like what can be done on our end, if we can potentially tap into new liquidity on smart contracts and different protocols for solving. And and for example, engage with new dexes or new AMMs that are not yet released in public, for example, and just been like testing those new ideas and new concepts. This is what helps us stay slightly ahead of the curve. So yeah, technological research and personal relationship.
Right. I think that's brilliantly put. I do think that, research and personal relationships, like you mentioned, they do pave the path for your product to a large degree in Web3 because of its dynamic nature. So that's very well said, and I think I completely concur with you on that. I would love to know a little more about the next big milestone that, you guys are looking at in your journey.
Right. So in January, we published this research, and our research went pretty viral on Twitter. At that time, we had only 100 followers, and it received over like 30,000 views and various reposts. And the idea is very simple. Like, how do we combine orders that originate on various different routers, like 1inch, Uniswap, 0x, MetaMask swaps, Cow swap, and how do we bundle them together and match them instead of matching them against AMM liquidity, match them against each other. And we realized that within 20 blocks of 5 minutes, it's possible to match quite a lot of transactions and save users up to $20,000. Imagine, like every 5 minutes, it's possible to save this amount of money in DeFi on existing order flow. So like pretty much the infrastructure and the activity is already there. Someone just needs to connect all the dots. And so we wrote this research, and at that time, we were only solving on the cow swap. Now we are expanding into more platforms, and also, kind of trying to build, new UIs that would connect to our API and our intent engine. And if we can improve pricing for users with this unlock, I think that would be huge. And we hope to do it by have some kind of prototype by the end of summer. And then, we will try to decentralize. So this is our, current roadmap and milestones that we want to achieve.
That's brilliant. I think, like you said, it's going to be a very, very powerful, feature, and it'll be a very powerful launch, especially, and be very popular among users. So I'm looking forward to that for one. Now, let's zoom out a little bit and let's talk a little about the regulation aspect. So there is an upcoming EU regulation which is expected to take, I think, effect by the end of this year, which would have some sort of an impact on the DeFi space. What is your take on that, and how big of an impact do you think these regulations will have on the DeFi space as a whole?
Right. So, I feel like regulation is, of course, inevitable, and it will touch, every company that is somehow interacting with DeFi. No one really knows yet whether it's going to be like harsh or whether it's going to be, relatively good. for I mean, it has to be good for the industry in the long run, but some aspects are still needed to be cleared by SEC and other similar, venues. But we feel like regulation is a tricky topic. We want to have some rules and guidelines that would show us what can be done and how it should be done. And it feels like so far no one has kind of like solved it. We will see how like what changes, but by the end of this year, everyone is hoping that the lawsuit, or what is the correct way of saying, of what is going on between Uniswap team and SEC will be resolved peacefully and would not have like a big major impact. Yeah, maybe QIC or stricter AML policies will be implemented. Maybe we will have to, exclude some liquidity or smart contracts because some money inside of them are tainted. And so yeah, like it's a pretty big issue. We are actively paying attention to it. I think everyone is trying to be as transparent as possible, in order to provide all information and the way they operate on chain right now. And yeah, we are one of those parties, but the best we can do is simply wait.
Yeah, I think wait and watch is the best way to go. And obviously, the more serious players would want to err on the side of caution and comply. Some regulation might be a good thing, but don't you feel that regulation kind of goes against the very ethos of decentralization?
No, I agree. I agree that regulation, is not a friend of DeFi and crypto in general. However, we have to kind of accept and be a realist, and with that we live in, this huge modern world, and it has rules, and those rules are actually built to protect, people, just like us. And yeah, we have to play by the rules and maybe modify them based on unique circumstances of our industry and unique aspects, and hopefully regulators are aware of those circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll leave it at that. So now, I would love to get your thoughts because on different ecosystems altogether, like Solana and Ethereum, there are
Yep.
people who are on both sides and there are supporters on both sides. There's been much discussion about perhaps Solana potentially dethroning Ethereum in the long run. What are your thoughts on this? What do you think is behind Solana's rise, and what challenges do you foresee in their journey?
Well, I feel like a lot of Solana's rise is actually around speculative activity, and that's not
Right. I
necessarily a
completely
bad.
agree.
It's
Yeah.
And it's yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing because Ethereum with ICO boom and what happened in like 2017 when the new tokens popped up and everyone was like fundraising kind of had a
Mm,
similar period. There are like
yeah.
a lot of similarities. I feel that Solana has a great team and definitely great technology. That's been proven by many to be like extremely competitive and extremely efficient. And yeah, for them, I think the challenge is, evolving this speculative, trading activity and speculative aspects of, new coins and everything what's going on the blockchain and turn it into a long-term sustainable businesses, sustainable DAOs, sustainable protocols. And yeah, I hope to see a lot more, unique niches and use cases for built specifically for Solana, which haven't happened yet. If
Yeah.
you look at L1 landscape, a lot of projects are very similar. Every chain has their own AMM, just like Uniswap. Every chain has their own, Oracle system and stuff like that. So hopefully Solana will, it already kind of started to happen. They were the first one to have some order book dexes and some other things. But yeah, I mean, it's up to the community and the core foundation and team in order to evolve. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think I agree. It's a work in progress. Obviously, I think all of us are. But Solana, it's an ecosystem. It is on the right path, it seems. And I think a lot will obviously, like any other Web3 project, will come down to the community and the users, and the kind of trajectory it takes. Touching upon community and users, I would love to understand. What is the community around your platform, and how have you been able to perhaps engage with users, or are you trying to perhaps stay more B2B facing and not consumer facing as of yet?
Yeah, we have this, interesting go-to-market approach. We are trying to stay as B2B as possible.
Right.
And it's a strategy because right now we help different dApps and we bootstrap their systems and their UIs and facilitate their users without kind of like stealing them or engaging with them directly. And everyone sort of loves us for it. So, we have easy time, in engaging with new projects, onboarding into new ecosystems, and it worked perfectly so far. However, I mean, it's kind of inevitable that in the long run, everyone is kind of trying to, build something new for the users. And we will also spend a lot of time thinking about it. One of the interesting unlocks that we see that people use centralized platforms and DEXs in a different way. So what I mean is people go to swap on Uniswap and they know exactly what they're gonna do. Like I
Right.
wanna buy I wanna buy ETH, or maybe I wanna sell my USDC for USDT, and they perform an action and they leave. They swap and they go and do other things. But when people use Binance or OKX or any other centralized exchange, they're always looking for new opportunities. They go online and they look at winners, losers, trading competitions, new listings, opportunities.
Yeah.
And imagine if we had this information available across all DeFi landscape, like which pools have deeper liquidity. Deeper liquidity meaning that those assets are kind of more stable, and maybe someone would see like, okay, Aave has a deeper liquidity than Compound, and those are similar products building in a similar niche. Maybe I should buy some Aave tokens. Well, this is just an example, not investment
Right.
advice.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, but if we can showcase users in a UI, all those interesting things that are happening, what other users are doing, and what they can do with their money, then I think it kind of open up new possibilities and for deeper engagement. We are not doing anything like this right now, but long term, I think it's highly possible, and eventually, what every system is trying to.
Yeah. I think you're very right here as well in your perspective, that when a user goes on Uniswap, they're very clear about what they need to do, and when they go on a place like
Exactly.
Binance, it's akin to, I'll give an analogy, that like if you go to say Uniswap, you're visiting perhaps a very niche boutique, to buy your stationery
Yes.
perhaps, right? And if you go to Binance, it's like akin to being in a mall where there are a lot of options, a
Mhm.
lot of distractions, and there's a lot of noise. So yeah, but I think those platforms, they also target, I think, very to different segment of users. I believe, which is something I think you will concur with.
True, I agree that Binance has a much larger and different audience, traders, and there are market makers and a lot more different parties. Yeah, definitely, definitely. But hopefully, all of those parties are coming to trade and perform their actions on chain sooner or later, and we will be ready for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, now I'm going to zoom out a little bit more and talk about the ecosystem as a whole. A lot of people are talking about how, we've already entered the next bull run, and you know there is some conflict, I think, around that. Some people agree, some people tend to disagree, but that is for another day. I would love to know from you, because you've been working in the space for some time, and you're working in the very honestly, you would know a lot about all of these platforms and trends that keep coming in. What is your take? Like, do you think that we've really entered a bull market, and which are the niches in the Web3 space that you think will do really well in this particular bull run? And this is something that I've been asking almost all of my guests in the last, few episodes, because everybody has a different opinion here, and that really leads to some very tradable insights.
Well, I have my own theory of bull runs, and the theory is pretty straightforward. That bull runs are heavily linked to emergence of new coins. So if
Right.
you look at 2013, there were a lot of Bitcoin forks, and everyone was trying to build like new chain with new coin, like for example, Litecoin is a good example, and there were a lot more smaller ones. So every bull run should have somehow huge amount of new coins that are being issued, and activity would spike. This happened with Ethereum, with ICO boom, and in 2020. DeFi summer, unlocked dApps to build governance tokens. Actually, Compound kind of unlocked it because before Compound, no one was looking and knew exactly how to, decentralize. And they was the first one, and they did it brilliantly. So yeah, and we've suddenly all dApps managed to issue the governance tokens. And then we had the new L2s and new projects that are running on them, issuing coins. So I'm trying to look where this, unlock for 1,000 new coins can happen in crypto. And yeah, it does not yet feel like a bull run to me and to our team in particular. We still feel like, the rise of Bitcoin price or Ethereum price is not yet enough, to be called like a bull run specifically. Yeah, but we are looking actively at social, coins, and yeah, maybe users will be able to monetize the blog or the like activity, and do it in or based on smart contracts, and so this can allow access for new things. At the same time, there are a lot of activity on other networks, for example, like Telegram. And imagine if Telegram users, so Telegram applications would have a easier time interacting with DeFi dApps, and we in a way see it with trading bots. A lot of on-chain swap activity is happening through platforms like Banana Bot, and they have a very strong order flow. So yeah, the question we're asking ourselves is, where do we see a lot of activities coming in, how it will increase, and how we can have like hundreds of new coins emerge on a daily basis, and not just meme coins, but long-term oriented, projects or with assets that are decentralized. Maybe real world asset will be this use case that unlocks. Also, I am not as bullish on real world assets because I've been hearing this term since 2017, and so far
Same.
it hasn't like moved much. Yeah,
Yeah.
but we'll see. So yeah, we feel like we are in the very, very early stages of this potential bull run. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I concur. I think we're very early, in this particular cycle. Regarding RWAs and, real world assets. So I'll add a personal anecdote here. We've tried doing that. We've tried
Yes.
tokenizing gold and silver. But there are a lot of, like, why I concurred with, there is a lot of hype, but I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, because there is a lot of challenges in terms of compliance. Like, jurisdictional compliance is very difficult. Managing a custodian, an insurer, as well as like a supplier for these assets, and making sure that it's all working in tandem. All of that is very, very challenging in terms of, as I said, compliance, and B, in terms of just the kind of resources that are required to uh, ensure that it is all okay. And startups usually do not have those kind of resources in times of time or money, or even just knowing how to go about doing these things, because it takes a lot of experience to be able to navigate these laws and these policies across jurisdictions. So yeah,
Yeah.
these were the reasons why I also don't think that RWS will really take off in a big way unless institutions really come in, which they are to a certain degree. Like I've heard some noise. I think that is the only scenario in which it can potentially take off in a big way. Because I just don't think startups have that capacity to be able to tokenize real world assets and really make a very sound business out of it.
I agree with your point 100%. Yeah. We will see how the market evolves, and
Right.
yeah, maybe in few years there will be more activity with when there will be more rules. But
Yeah.
so far, yeah, it hasn't
It's a gray area.
happened.
Yeah, it's a gray area to sort of venture into. And it's hard. It's like being in the trenches without any help. So that is just my personal opinion, because I've been there, done that. It was quite a struggle. But anyway, now, moving to another trendy thing that has been going around and making a lot of noise, AI coins. And I would love to know your opinion on AI tokens, and we keep hearing about them. What is your take? Do you think that this is mostly noise, or do you think there is some substance here?
Very tricky question. We definitely need one of my co-founders. They would answer a lot better than myself. I'm not an engineer, and kind of
No, that is
affects
okay.
my
Neither am
perception.
I.
No,
So,
yeah, I
yeah, it
agree.
is
I agree.
okay.
No.
Yeah,
But let's try. Let's try tackle it anyway.
exactly.
We
Yeah.
genuinely
Yeah.
we genuinely really like AI. A lot of everyone almost in our team is an AI geek, and we follow the news and we look at new products and like experiment. And to be honest, we try to fit in AI into many things that we do. For example, AI can help us predict potentially volatility on the market, and
Yeah.
predict when we will have like a lot more order flow, and when can we do more like coincidence of once transactions between different protocols and stuff like that. But so far it feels like AI and crypto are still quite disconnected, and crypto doesn't exactly, like in the current landscape and the way of things, just adds much value to AI. Yeah, AI is still, all the niches and all platforms where it operates. Decentralization doesn't add like as much improvement, and it's not exactly what users want. But yeah, like it's kind of changing. It's a rapidly changing, market niche, and yeah, so this is our answer. We really like it. We are all enthusiasts. We struggle to see how we can use, existing AI products and, make them part of our stacks, AI and crypto products specifically, not just regular AI, but where it meets with crypto. So yeah, but we are actively, looking and hoping that crypto can, improve security aspects and other things for AI niche.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way of putting it. I think my take has also been like, I usually pick up the example of NFTs. Like initially, I think I was one of the naysayers, because I did not understand the point of digital collectibles going for that much money. But we've seen the use cases of NFTs develop and evolve over time, over the years, and the technology has a lot of potential. Sadly, there are no great PMFs currently, but it's a space to watch out for. And I feel it's pretty similar when I think about AI tokens as well. That it's a space that's exciting. A lot is happening, but to be able to really see where it lands, it's going to be a journey. and it's going to take some time, but you
Sure.
cannot really write it off.
Yes. I
I'm glad that we kind of touched upon that, and I think especially people like you and me, like I've been in tech for a very long time, so now at this point I can call myself a self-taught techie, but I come from a background of humanities, and people who are perhaps not engineers, I think they bring a different perspective and a breath of fresh air to these discussions because the discussions are more well-rounded, I feel. So, you should, you mentioned now, you should get another, one of your co-founders perhaps answer this in a more technical way.
Definitely.
But our podcast is all about, having these
Okay.
discussions without the jargon. So
Yeah.
it kind of,
Yeah.
what you said completely resonates.
Thank you. And I had I actually, I had another idea while you were talking, and that I feel like AI projects in
Hmm.
crypto as well should have kind of success, and not like actually even success, but just stability and good business models without
Hmm.
necessarily having to have a token.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when I look at crypto and AI platforms that do not yet have their own asset, launched, I think that what intrigues me more and which have more like long-term potential. Yeah.
I think
So
that
I'm not a
is,
big fan
yeah,
of AI
yeah,
coins.
yeah. No, I understand that. Moreover, I think, um, this is gonna sound very like a bit of a controversial opinion, perhaps, but I do feel that uh, at times, more tokens is not the answer. Like I really do believe that unless,
Mhm.
your token really has a good utility and you have a sound business model that, it stands on, there's really no need for every platform to have a native token.
Right, definitely. Yeah, well, we will monitor how, AI landscape evolves and
Yeah,
changes, and
yeah,
hopefully more projects will emerge.
yeah. Absolutely. Now, because we are running a little short on time, I would love to ask you for certain recommendations or, of resources or of thought leaders, folks that you admire, that you listen to, that, you would like to recommend to our listeners.
Oh, you mean among podcasts, or among just
Anything,
general
just
channels?
anything, just general channels, anything, podcasts, books,
Uh-huh.
or anything that you think is really they're doing a
Well,
fabulous job, and you want to highlight them here, and our listeners should give it a listen as well.
okay. Sure. Well, I feel like, A16Z, Crypto Startup School has a lot of
Yeah,
good, materials for
yeah.
new founders that discuss, various aspects like token economics, building and Web3 security issues, and a lot of things. And this is really important. And, it's just the best kind of like publicly available source of information about what it's like being a founder, and you can experience how they teach their own portfolio companies. So this is great. I highly recommend everyone to take a look. Well, among media, I'm a big fan of the Block and Blockworks. I feel like they have a good unbiased opinion about writing and covering a lot of events that are happening in crypto. And yeah, so this is it really. I feel like I've spent a lot less time, following, channels and news since we, started Barter. And of course, your podcast as well. I mean, your listeners are already familiar, but now it's something that I would recommend everyone to dive deeper.
That's very kind of you to be mentioned in the same line as the block, and A16Z is an absolute honor. Thank you so much for your kind words.
You're welcome.
Uh, so as I mentioned earlier, we're running short on time, and I would want this conversation to last forever because it has been so interesting, and what you're building is very unique, very relevant. But I do have to ask you this one question that once again I ask almost everybody who comes on the show. You've also made quite a leap from being in deep tech to Web3, working and then building. So what would be your advice to perhaps, potential builders or aspiring builders for them to really start living on blockchain?
I strongly recommend everyone to experience what projects looks like from inside
Hmm.
first before building something of your own. So I
Right.
suggest joining good teams, and the easiest way to do that is to follow investment round announcement news. So whenever
Hmm.
we see that like a project raise some money, it means that they have capital, they are scaling, investors did due diligence on them, and they believe they are legit and nice. And yeah, I think it's really good to have at least 1 or 2 years of this working experience and feeling what tokens feel like, what issuing token looks like, how you build a team, and what kind of security aspects exist in building DeFi dApps. Because when you have a smart contract logic, especially for DeFi, it creates a lot of risks. And yeah, I would suggest everyone that there is a big difference between Web3 and Web2 and building startups in those respective niches. So before starting something, gain this experience, and it would help you a lot.
Yeah, gain the relevant experience and then start building, because there is a stark difference when it comes to building in Web 2 as against in Web 3. There are a lot of similarities as well. I think the one foundational thing that I keep telling everybody is ultimately you're building a business. So, you should be clear about that. And all businesses are mostly, created, at least for profit businesses are created to make money. So you need to be clear on that. And it just doesn't have to be like a race of raising, more and more money. It's good that, if you want to use that money to scale, but ultimately your business should be making money. And I think that is the only, common ground that I find between Web 2 and Web 3 companies. So thank you so much once again for making the time to speak to me today. This has been a very, very interesting conversation. Before we wrap this up, any parting thoughts?
No, thanks for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed, discussing intents, and hoping, your users, your community would also love it. If you have any questions, feel free to, send us a message on Twitter or through email. But yeah, appreciate your time, and congrats on all the work. Really excited about this episode.
Thank you so much. Likewise.